Greek castle here in Greeceland. Walls, domes, arches, holes, ground, dirt. It's like a 15th century doggy door. Castle closes in 10 minutes, so I gotta wrap it up. They tried to shut down early. I'm not having it. I paid nothing to be here, and I want every last minute of this. After walking around in here, I can imagine the sense of permanence, the sense of belonging that you would get if you were welcomed into the castle, if you resided here, if this was your home or a place you were regularly allowed to visit. I mean, there's something about a stone structure built like this by so many men, occupied by the highest lords. You're getting all that validation fed to you. It must be important because the princes and lords built it, and all the men that put their hand to it. And now you walk through the gateway, under the arches, you're in the hall. Now you dine here. Now you're accepted here. I can see the intoxication factor. It's like having 1 million Instagram followers. Whatever the modern version of our absence of self-worth fortified by external validation is. You know, it's still happening today. It's hard to overestimate the allure of acceptance by heads of state, by heads of industry. You know, there's things that we don't know are missing until we find them. And I think that level of acceptance and validation is one of those things. You don't realize how good you can feel until the most important people in the world are telling you how valuable and important you are. Because you've got all the people worshiping the elite, and then the elite validating you. And by proxy, that's the whole world validating you. If a person doesn't really know who they are, and they don't really have their identity grounded in something else, they will end up serving that feeling. They will end up serving that acceptance and those that give them that acceptance, that validation. So imagine it's the 13th century and this castle was built. And it's a sign of things to come, and it protects the port that you can see from the castle. And it's on the highest hill in the region. And it's built by stoneworkers. And it's occupied by the most important people in the region. And it's the defender of the region. It's armed. And there are soldiers here to protect it and everyone around it. And then someone asks you if you'd like to come and join, if you'd like to dine here, if you'd like to be entertained here. You see all the levels of importance. You see all the different angles of validation, all the different angles of fulfillment that you could be experiencing if you just did whatever it took to be here. And suddenly you feel full and complete for the first time in your life. And they say, we're gonna need you to make a couple changes to what you're doing. There's no walking away from that. So how do you walk away from this? When you really understand what it represented to them, what these high walls meant, what the place on the hill meant, whether the security is literally inside the stone walls of a castle, It doesn't matter what form it takes. The intoxication of that is really hard to overestimate. So this is your castle. Imagine your second generation, your third generation, your fourth generation royalty living here. This is where you belong. This is where you're entertained, you're comforted. This is what your place is. This is how you know who you are. Now somebody wants that castle. How many lives are you willing to sacrifice to keep that thing? So that you don't have to feel the withdrawals of the drug that you've been on your entire life. What compromises would you be willing to make? How many human lives, how many husbands, how many fathers would you be willing to sacrifice to not feel the emptiness of losing who you are, of falling into the abyss? I think we know the answer. We've seen it played out so many times in history. The answer is a lot. A lot. What is an addict willing to do? A lot. This is not beyond us to experience. If we don't know the highs that come with an experience like this, then we can't really know what we're willing to do to keep that high, to keep that sense of security. So we need to hold the people that represent us accountable. But we also have to remember that we would be them. We would be them if given the chance. This is another reason why I believe identity is the answer to everything. If we know who we are, then there's a chance that we can handle power, wield power, instead of letting it wield us. There's a chance that we could take the gods off of the altar and turn them into tools of our hands. This is the last guard of the castle. He and one other, making sure all is well.